It is time for another best of 5 series in StarCraft 2, and what I got for you today is a Zerg versus Protoss between two professional players. Spawning here in game number 1 on Catalina LE in the bottom right hand corner of the map and playing with the purple Zerg drones, we have none other than Bly. And apparently the first map in the series was supposed to be Mech Depot LE, but apparently his opponent doesn't mind. Spawning on the left hand side of the map, playing with the blue Protoss probes, we have none other than Harstem. Harstem, of course, a Dutch Protoss player. Definitely the best Protoss player in the Netherlands. The guy is an absolute beast. And he is gonna go up against a hyper aggressive Zerg. Now, I love casting games of Bly. I know that a lot of you enjoy watching games of Bly as well, because this guy is definitely not, he's definitely not against cheesing his opponents, at the very least every now and then. He's perfectly capable of playing the macro game, but I definitely label him as a hyper-aggressive Zerg. And usually, I do play rather passive myself. I do enjoy playing that macro-focused style, but I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy it when Zerg players do get very aggressive and try to close out the game early. So I wonder if he's got any funny builds for us in store here today. Now he's going up against one of the best defensive Protosses in Europe. Harstem, generally speaking, is not gonna take a massive risk, and of course, he also knows of the reputation of Bly, right? These guys have played countless times in the past, so Harstem definitely knows what he's in for, and I highly doubt that he's gonna be playing something super greedy. For example, Protoss players lately have been mixing up a lot of their build orders by just simply delaying the Mothership Core. I'd be quite surprised if Harstem does something along those lines, because the Mothership Core is such a great defensive tool. Now, of course, Bly can also use that knowledge to his advantage. Say, for example, if he knows that his opponent is gonna, open up extremely safe, there's a good chance that he's going to be capable of, for example, going like triple hatch before making a spawning pool. A build like that is always going to be rather interesting as well. And of course, that essentially means that we got some funny mind games going on right here as well that we can't really catch from just simply casting the game. Regardless though, Harstem checking around right here, trying to see how much gas has been mined. He's realized that it is indeed going to be hatchery first right here, so no hyper aggression just yet here from Bly. Not even Zergling speed coming in just yet, because actually he went for a rather late extractor. In the meantime though, on the other side of the map, we do see Harstem switching very quickly towards that expansion himself as well, getting himself out the Adept right now too, and he's going straight into the Twilight Council. Twilight Council, of course, opens up a wide plethora of builds. We do see Bly poking up here with an Overlord, at the very least up to this little ramp. He could, of course, be going for some Zergling drops here in the earlier part of the game, which has become rather popular in the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. But regardless, there is a rather big opener right here. Harstem may actually end up getting a couple of Zerglings inside of his main base, and so far, these Lings are going to have a pretty easy time trying to get this around right there on that Adept. Zerglings are going to go after at the very least one of the probes there, so, one worker kill, definitely not the worst, but it does mean that at the very least for now, Harstem will have to try and get rid of these units. Plus, on top of that, he also gets a full scouting information, Bly that is, about that Twilight Council. And even though 2 probes ended up dying, these Zerglings should be dealt with relative ease. There we go. Now, seeing the Twilight Council is not immediately the biggest giveaway of what kind of build a Protoss is going for, because like I said, there's a wide plethora of builds that are still viable here. For example, there's potential to go for Blink Stalkers, we see Adept pushes as well, but indeed, the gold standard is going to be the switch into that robotic facility and the Dark Shrine as well. Not only can you go ahead and follow this up with some very aggressive, Dark Templar pushes, you can morph the Dark Templar into Archon, and then with the help of that War Prism that he will be getting out of the robotics facility here very shortly, he can continue onwards the harassment with Archon drops for a little while longer. A lot of Zerglings though on that production tab, and this is usually the moment where Zerg players start powering out the drones, knowing that they're gonna have to defend here in just a little bit. Instead, Bly is opting to go for a lot of Zerglings and potentially see if we can bust down the front door here of that Protoss player. No third base to be seen anywhere just yet, but the Zerglings are indeed gonna go after that single Adept, and the Adept is actually running rather low on HP here as well. A probe is making its way over there, gonna be able to set up a pylon there just in the nick of time. A second pylon will be a necessity as well, and the Zerglings for now will be deflected. This does mean, though, that of course Harstem will be slowed down just a little bit. He didn't quite plan on making those pylons there, and he's also, he's also got to be careful that he does not accidentally overextend here. But so far, everything is looking rather safe, and Harstem is really not missing a beat. One thing to keep in mind, though, at this point in the game, is that there are indeed still a lot of Zerglings out as well, and the Zerglings are going to continue this harassment here for just a little while longer. 2 Adepts will be forced to get warped in here as well, but apparently it's not quite a full wall, and the Zerglings will be able to get this around. But while this is all going on, right, the worker count is quite heavily in favor here of the Protoss player. The Zerglings, though, managed to sneak into that natural mineral line, and this is one of the annoying parts here of playing against Bly. He does these kind of moves all the time. Mothership Core only just now coming out, and with the roaches already on the production tab here as well, in the meantime, that Warp Prism is not getting any value, and it does look like Bly will not only be able to deal a little bit of damage there to his opponent's economy and slow down the advancement here of that Warp Prism, but more importantly, he's got the defenses ready to go and deal with this potential Dark Templar Archon drop shenanigans. So far though, Harstem not quite switching them into the Archons just yet. Lair, however, is done. There's already a Overseer right there as well, and I think that as soon as this gets spotted, Harstem will indeed be morphing those Dark Templar into the Archons here very shortly. Now we'll see exactly what he's got in store for us though, because they're definitely going to get a couple of workers down. He knows that there is a lair up at this point as well, but so far 9 workers, 10 workers go down in just a matter of seconds. Of course, the fact that those units one-shot workers definitely does not make it any easier, and Harstem is using this time here as well that he's just freed up for himself to move towards that 3rd base expansion and start that one up here as well. Instead of just immediately morphing in the Archon, however, it turns out that there are going to be a couple more drone casualties. We'll be able to pick up all of the Dark Templar right there as well. Great play by Harstem, not really missing a beat there whatsoever. And so far, all of a sudden, 13 workers going down. So far, that definitely evens up the score once again. So while Bly was having a slight lead here earlier, all of a sudden, the worker count is just barely in favor here of the Zerg player. He will indeed scout out that there's going to be a little bit more aggression, so he knows that something's producing out of both the Twilight Council as well as that robotic facility. But the Immortal Archon composition, together with those zealots on the ground and then also the sentries, generally speaking, is going to be the gold standard. Now, there are indeed 4 queens here in the main base. They're going to try and go after that Warp Prism here right from the get-go. Transfuse, of course, will be hit as well, but these Archons, they are so very tanky. Of course, Archons will still regenerate their shields while inside of that Warp Prism as well, but they're so far just dealing a heck of a lot of damage while the Roach is occupied and sending all of his Roaches and Ravagers across the map right now as well. Of course, Bly is sending all of his units across the map, right? As long as he doesn't lose all too many workers, though, this should be easily dealt with as well with the reinforcing units. At the exact same time, on the other side of the map, we do see the Photon Overcharges being forced to get used defensively. Great positioning right there on those pylons by Harstem, making the most of this little choke area, making it rather tough as well for the Zerg to get any value in. And apparently, while this was all going on, Harstem ended up losing one of the Archons, but not without killing a significant portion of the mineral line right there of the Zerg player with the purple drones. Couple of Zealots now trying to not charge forward there. Great force fields. Ooh, that was brilliant. Cutting off half of that Roach reinforce. Oh my god, that was really well done there. Getting so much value out of just a very small amount of units. All of a sudden, like, how much was that? Like 6-7 Roaches or so going down in just a matter of seconds with just a handful of energy spent right there on those sentries. You gotta be very careful when you're going up against high-level players. At the same time, though, the Archon here has got some reinforcements as well, warping in those Zealots on the other side of the map. Harstem also playing a very aggressive strategy right here, not really sitting back like he normally does, but instead he is sort of, you know, trading evenly here with his opponent when it comes to dealing a big amount of damage. Very nicely done. While this is going on, though, Warp Prism apparently sacrifices those units inside of the main base. That Archon is gonna go down as well, but he's gonna use it to reinforce the army here at the 3rd base instead, and I gotta hand it to Harstem here, playing this brilliantly. Of course, there's now also energy here available on these sentries, so they can just simply, you know, choke off this ramp if they need to, making it impossible for the Zerg to get in there. And while the units in the main base eventually got cleaned up, already an additional 18 workers end up falling there. 34 drones killed here in total of this match. Now, there are Ravages available. Of course, they can indeed break those force fields, but it's gonna take a little bit of time. Warp Prism once again juggling the weakened units back and forth. Great micro here by the Protoss player, trying to get the most value out of all of these units. Reinforcing Zealots now coming in once again, picking up that weakened Immortal, getting so much value out of all of these army units. The drones are pulled off the line as well, trying to see if they can potentially stop this, but I think that in game number 1, there's far too much Protoss here on the other side of the map already, and Harstem is looking dominant in this series so far. Reinforcing Roaches, trying to get the most value out of this as they possibly can. Sentries, however, being warped in, and Harstem indeed obtains the victory in game number 1. I gotta hand it to Harstem there, though, in game number 1. That was really well played. I mean, other than the fact that a couple of Zerglings made their way inside of the natural mineral line and he lost a handful of probes there. He really didn't make very many mistakes whatsoever. War Prism harassment was on point. Going for the Dark Templar, then the Archon drop harass, microing the Archons at the exact same time while he was also defending at home against the Road Ravager Bull. And then, you know, making the decision to sacrifice a single Archon and a handful of Zealots on the other side of the map, inside of the main base of the Zerg, while rallying the War Prism towards the third base location of the Zerg instead, where the majority of the Protoss army was located. Very nicely done, great force fielding, really not missing a beat whatsoever. And I wonder if Bly is gonna feel faced here because of that match whatsoever. We see him making his way down towards the low ground already, going for that quick expansion. But actually, I think that in the meantime, on the other side of the map, we see Harstem going for a Nexus first. So indeed, it is going to be a Nexus first versus a hatchery first as well. And hold that thought, actually. I think that Bly may very well be looking to go for a quick third base expansion as well. I think that he isn't phased whatsoever. I take back whatever I said. He's not going to be phased whatsoever. Delaying both the gas geyser as well as the spawning pool here inside of the main base in favor of a very quick third hatchery. So it's indeed going to be 3 hatch before the spawning pool against a Nexus first here for the Protoss. Now, we are indeed going to be on Mech Depot, Ellie, and apparently this was supposed to be the very first map in this series. I don't think anyone is really going to complain about this map, though. It's pretty straightforward. For the Zerg versus Protoss matchup, I'm going to make the assumption that it is rather balanced as well. I don't think a lot of people are complaining about this map. However, what I have seen Bly do a whole lot of times on this map already is use this ramp right here to drop off Zerglings inside of his opponent's main base. And the nice thing about this map is that you can actually get there with a slow Overlord plenty in time. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that production chap to see if there's going to be an evolution chamber coming down here early for the Zerg, because there's definitely a chance that he's going to try and drop off Zerglings inside of the main base here of the Protoss player. Now, Harstem so far showing us some very solid defensive play though, really not missing a beat whatsoever. Although he did end up losing a handful of probes, it really wasn't in favor there of the Zerg player either way. Right now, though, we do see that that third hatchery did get scouted by the Protoss as well, and Bly is finally finishing up that spawning pool, and he's going to be capable of starting up 2 queens already, and I think that he's going to be capable of starting up a 3rd queen here at the 3rd base location right when it finishes up as well. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we once again see Harstem delaying that mothership core, not going for that nearly as quickly, but jumping into the Stargate tech right away. This is actually rather risky as well from Harstem. Obviously, he scouted though that this is going to be a very quick 3rd hatchery here from his opponent. So, you know, the risks are essentially nullified right there. But generally speaking, this is going to be rather greedy from a Protoss player. Even though Harstem did go for that Nexus first and delayed all of his tech, he's still gonna get a, what's it called, an Oracle out right around the 4-minute mark or so. Very early on into this match, just like he normally would. Very greedy play there by Harstem, but I like it because rather than playing the map or playing the matchup, he's playing his opponent, knowing very well what Bly is going to be capable of right here, not taking any unnecessary risks. Now, a handful of Zerglings are currently coming down here for the Zerg player already. Link speed only about halfway done. This could just be as a response to... Oh, okay, no, it's not going to be a response to anything. He is indeed going to be putting down that evolution chamber. I was going to say it could be a response to early game adept aggression that this opponent could be going for as well. But I think that indeed... Look at that. 18 Zerglings on the production tab. Bly is going to try and see if he can close this game out early. And actually, Harstem is currently sending a bunch of troops over towards the 3rd base location, as well as a probe. I think that he's looking to take a very quick 3rd Nexus as well. We do see now a Drop Lord being morphed in here by the Zerg player. He's going to try and drop off some links here inside of the opponent's main base. Actually, I love this follow-up, though. Going for a Phoenix here as well is Harstem. Very smart play. Zerglings now making their way towards that 3rd base location, as well as towards that Overlord here. So look at this, right? The Phoenix perfectly rallied in the direction here of the Overlord. Harstem knowing very well what the timings here are, and while the Zerglings will be able to deal with that Zealot and then also the Adept, it's not quite going to be enough, as now that the Mothership Core is out there, they're going to be able to, they're not quite going to be able to deal that much. And the Oracle, look at that. Oracle has indeed gotten a solid amount of energy right here as well. It's going to be able to deal a huge amount of damage to these Zerglings. Adepts being warped in here at the nick of time. And now that a lot more Zerglings are rallying here towards that 3rd base location, but the Mothership Core is out, I highly doubt that the Zerg will be able to do any damage whatsoever. Very nicely done by Harstem. Once again, not missing a beat whatsoever. however, warping in just barely enough units, getting that Phoenix out in the nick of time as well. Very nicely done. It does look like Zerg is going to commit to this aggression for a little while longer, but we also see more queens here queued up, so I think that Bly is shortly going to make that transition towards more and more drones. Photon Overcharge is indeed forced. There are still a lot of Zerglings out though. There are still a lot of Zerglings out and more reinforcing lings as well. 10 drones, however, are currently coming up, and there's also +1 melee being researched. So Bly is not quite planning to close this game out right now, but look at the worker count, right? Worker count currently in favor of the Protoss, and that is not quite what you want to have if you are the Zerg player. Once again, though, a huge amount of Zerglings. Photon Overcharge does get forced. That leaves the natural rather vulnerable as well, but still, the Oracle picking up so many kills here already. Still accumulating energy, right? Still making the most of this scenario, and I think that Harstem, as long as he doesn't lose the third base or a big amount of his probes, he's gonna be in a very nice position. Once again, though, perfect force field right there. Look at that. Not only pushing the friendly zealots there against the force field, but also allowing his sentry and the zealot right there to be safe. A couple of zealots now, however, do get caught here by the Zerglings, but Bly, I mean, he's losing Zerglings left and right. He's trying to produce 18 more now in the meantime on the other side of the map, but I think that there is just simply too much Protoss here to really get any proper damage done. Charge now also being followed up here by Harstem. He's going for the +1 melee, which will make his army significantly stronger against these Zerglings. Of course, the Zealots will then only need 2 hits to actually kill a Zergling rather than 3, which is a very big deal. +1 attack, however, is just about to finish up. Zerglings are trying to set up for that surround, and not quite getting it just yet. But now with the cannon here as well, it's going to mess with the AI for at least a little bit. Hold position micro is going to, at the very least, deal some damage to some of those units. But look at that great force field once again, getting so much value out of it. Photon Overcharge does go down, and only 2 probes ended up dying. Very, very well done here by the Protoss player. Now, in the meantime, though, on the other side of the map, we see the Zerg transitioning to not only a 4th base, but also a 5th base location. Oracle did indeed now find out about this as well, but he's not quite going to have the energy available anymore to continue dealing the damage. Single Spore Crawler will go down, so if he decides to return a little while later, it's not quite going to be enough. And actually, I'm rather impressed here as well with the amount of stuff that Bly has. Only just now going for that macro hatchery, instead opting to go for a lot more units here instead. Zerglings, once again, trying to get some value, and 2 more probes end up dying. But I think that he may very well be going up against the caliber of Protoss here that is just simply not going to take the damage. Harstem playing this very well, even in the amount of workers right now versus his opponent. And the longer that this goes on, right, we all know how powerful that Protoss army becomes. The more this will go in favor here of the Protoss as well. Because let's be honest, these units are just simply a lot more cost efficient. Dark Templar or High Templar right now being morphed in here as well. They're going to morph into Archons as well. Look at that. 3 Archons is going to make this army so much more powerful, and apparently that one Adept wanted to warp across here as well from another planet, but he's not quite going to be able to do so. A handful of Zealots now being split up to try and potentially catch some of those Zerg units here off guard. There are a lot of Banelings now available as well. No Baneling speed upgrades just yet. Gotta get those force fields. Perfect force fields once again. Great play here by the Protoss player, picking up the weakened units as well, keeping that Archon alive. What great player by Harstem, really not missing a beat here whatsoever. Once again, trying to split up, making sure that one Archon indeed takes a lot of the damage here from all of these Banelings. Reinforcing Zealots now going to town here as well. We see another Archon being morphed in here, and Bly is just simply getting overwhelmed with the sheer amount of Protoss here available. I mean, 28 Zerglings on the production tab. That's going to be nice and dandy, but look at the amount of units here available that are going to be essentially hard countering all of those Zerglings. Sure, the Queens are going to be able to deal some damage here as well. Transfuses are going down in the nick of time, but I think that there's just simply too much Protoss. Harstem is going in for the kill right now, trying to see if at the very least he can clean up this 3rd base location. Zealots now also making their way towards the 4th base here instead. Is this a smart pickup though? Is he going to be sending his units across? Is that the correct thing to do? No, apparently he does decide to send a couple of these Zerglings and these Zealots once again towards those Banes, but I mean, look at this army though. Harstem finally gonna go up against the Hydras here as well, but I think it's just gonna be a little bit too late. Bly decides to stay in the game for a little while longer, but the Zealots here at the 4th base location, picking off so many of the kills. The 3rd now also running awfully low, and while Bly still has a 3rd base here as well, I guess a backup 3rd that he took a little while earlier, this base will end up falling. 17 drones are now dead already here as well, and Bly is running very low here when it comes to the supply counts in this game. Harstem trying to go for the kill right now. Is he overextending? There's a chance that he is. Baneling's finally connecting right here with the Zealots as well. Very nicely done. There's now a reinforcing group of Zealots coming in as well. Of course, those Banelings will indeed be able to connect with that, but I think that there's just simply not enough Zerg left over. Hydra's coming in once again. We see 20, 30 Zerglings now also on the production tab there, but I think that there's just simply so many reinforcing units here. The longer that this goes on, right, the more in favor of the Protoss player it will go. 42 Zerglings are coming in, but without that Baneling support, it's very hard to really get any value against Zealots, and then also Archons here, and Bly is forced to GG out. Game number 3 is gonna be on Odyssey LE, and this is already potentially match point right now for the blue Protoss. Odyssey LE, of course, a pretty straightforward map. I wonder what Bly is gonna go for, and actually, look at that production tab, there's nothing. I think that Bly, no way. He's gonna go for a 12 pool. No way! How many players would do that? You're currently 2-0 behind in a best of 5 series. Your opponent is on match point right now, and you go for a 12 pool. There's only a handful of players on the planet that will try and pull something like that off, right? But when you think about it, on Mech Depot LE, Harstem was ahead in the series. He went for a Nexus first. What if the Protoss now once again goes for that Nexus first? This is going to be rather tricky here for the Protoss player to defend against. Now, in the meantime, though, on the other side of the map, we do indeed see that it is going to be a gateway here on the low ground for the Protoss player. So it's not going to be a hyper-aggressive build here from the Protoss, but he's definitely planning on following this up with a Nexus here as well. But Bly, he's going to try and see if he can end this game early. Spawning pool finishing up, Overlord is out, 3 Zerglings are available, a drone now also being sent towards that low ground to go for the expansion here eventually as well. Bly is however gonna meet up with a single probe there. Probe is indeed gonna block that expansion from going up here for the time being, and you will be able to get the hatchery up here eventually, but not without Zerglings immediately meeting him, and Bly is indeed gonna end up killing one of the probes there for the Protoss already. Now you gotta keep in mind, this is a build that's meant to maybe not necessarily close out the game, but it's meant to do a lot of damage. Harstem is forced to defend against this to the best of his abilities, delaying the Nexus here already, but so far, of course, he's only gonna have access to a single Zealot. I think that he's gonna have to force this into a second Zealot as well. Yeah, there we go, he's immediately queuing that one up. Second gateway now also going down, and while this is a full wall off, of course, the Zerg can just simply destroy one of the buildings. This is going to be an extremely close timing. Not until the Mothership Core and an Adept come out is this going to be properly defended. Solid positioning right there, though, on that Cybernetics Core, not going for the other way around. Zealot trying to distract a couple of these Zerglings as well. They're trying to go for the reach around right there, trying to get the most value out of this situation, and the Zealot is constantly juggling back and forth right here. Will the Zerglings be able to get this around? They're trying to get in there. Very nicely done so far by the Protoss player. Zerg is going to try and once again swoop back around. Will be able to get at the very least one of the Zealots. Very nicely done there by Bly, getting so much value out of these Zerglings, microing the weakened ones back as well, and he's now going to go after that gateway. The gateway is desperately trying to produce an Adept. It's just barely not going to come out, I don't think, and no! Beautifully done there by Bly, getting so much value out of this. However, the Mothership Core is out right now. Ooh, man, these Zerglings are indeed gonna end up dying in big numbers due to that Photon Overcharge. Nexus eventually will go down here for the Protoss player, but Bly, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, is already making some happy little drones, not committing to this aggression anymore. And actually, all things considered, we're ending up in a reasonably even scenario. I mean, look at this, right? Both players, 22 and 23 workers. We finally see a little bit of gas income right here as well for the Protoss player. Zerg not going for any extractors just yet. But regardless, this is actually a rather even game right now, even though we had that hyper-aggressive opener here from both of the players. Once again, very well handled there by Harstem. I mean, imagine if Harstem would have put the Cybernetics Core here at the bottom instead. May not sound like a big difference, but the Cybernetics Core would have fallen there. And that would have meant that there was not going to be the potential for a follow-up with tech here either. So Harstem, you know, not just accidentally putting his buildings right there in the correct position, but doing so very, very smartly. Now, a single drop is currently trying to hide by that tree. Hiding from the Adept. The Adept just barely did not see that, although apparently it could in the nick of time see that a hatchery did get planted down. At the same time, though, Harstem going straight for that Dark Shrine. will be able to once again get a couple of Dark Templar in, but Bly already scouting this as well, and both players, you know, just simply reading each other very, very well. Now, it is important right here for Bly that he obtains the victory in this match. I mean, so far, he's not necessarily very far ahead, but it is important that he obtains the victory, because otherwise, he's not going to be able to win this series here whatsoever. I mean, he's already 2-0 behind against a player like Harstem. Very hard to begin with to win 3 games in a row against someone of that caliber. Interestingly enough, though, Harstem is going to go up against a Zerg with 4 gases already. It's very normal for a Zerg to sit back for a while and usually drone up 3 bases fully off of just a single gas geyser. And actually, I like this one a lot. Look at that. Ooh, I love this. Harstem actually not attacking that hatchery here on purpose, making Bly think that this is safe. Oh man, this is really cute. Instead, he's putting down 2 pylons, waiting here for the pylons to finish up and the hatchery as well, and then he's going to Photon Overcharge both of these buildings. That is insanely well done. That is so cool. The queen is going to be able to come in there, but not in time. The hatchery finishes up, and indeed, with the lair coming in right now as well, the Photon Overcharge will go down, and Harstem is going to go after that hatchery here early on as well. He's like, wait a second, I know what to do against this sort of shenanigans. If the Zerg is going to try and get cheeky against me, I'm going to do something very similar, and that hatchery is already losing a ton of HP. Zerglings and Queens, however, trying to go for the kill here. Another Photon Overcharge does get forced here as well. Dark Templar now morphed in here at this location too. There's no Warp Prism out just yet. It's currently being chrono boosted out here as well as more gateways. But regardless, that base is running awfully low, and while there are, you know, there are detectors now available here for the Zerg player. Not only does he just barely not get the next... Oh, actually, he's got to be careful. Oh my god, is Bly actually going to hold on here? No way. No way, this is so close. Photon Overcharge once again available here on that mothership core. The queens are taking a lot of damage. That transfuse, though, was on point. Once again, getting so much value out of this. I think that eventually, though, not through lack of effort, but eventually, Harstem will be able to get the kill there on the 3rd hatchery of the Zerg player. I don't even know if that was really value for the Zerg player, or for the Protoss player, to be honest. I mean, not only did he show his hand with, of course, the Dark Templar, and, you know, he essentially slowed down his own potential bit of aggression, but also he is gonna go up, you know, against a Zerg player on 2 bases that are fully saturated when he's on 2 bases himself. Now, interestingly enough, Bly was forced to make a lot of queens. So what is his follow-up going to be? He's gonna make a Nydus network. I love this. Going for the Nydus Worm is actually really smart. The Overlord is still here in the main base. I mean, this one has not been shooed away just yet. At the same time, though, Dark Templar, as well as a bunch of these Adept, are now shading all over his base. He will be able to go after a lot of the workers here. We do indeed see a set of Zerglings canceling that 3rd base. Nydus Worm going down inside of the main of the Protoss here as well. And the Zerg is going to try and reinforce this to the best of his abilities. Going for a lot of units here. Overseers now also being morphed in here inside of the main base of the Protoss player. And while both players are desperately trying to attack and defend at several different angles, I can't help but wonder that this is going to go in favor pretty heavily here of the Zerg, right? Photon Overcharge does get activated. Queens will be able to hit those transfuses. Immortal now coming out as well. Hold that thought. This is actually a really nice solid defense here by the Protoss so far. Photon Overcharge, however, is gonna run out. Cannons are now also being created here by the Protoss player, trying to get the most value out of those units, but with more and more reinforcing units now making their way through that Nydus Worm, the probes will indeed be forced off the line eventually. Spire coming in right now as well for the Zerg player, gonna try and more than likely follow this up with Mutalisk. Queen's now actually going after that Mothership Core. Mothership Core once again ends up dying. Second Immortal just about to join here as well, and we do see the Mothership Core, or rather the Warp Prism, dropping off a couple of those Dark Templar. Even though the Dark Templar will get spotted, they still deal an awful lot of damage, and the longer that this goes on, the more value these Immortals will be able to get here as well. And I think just barely in the nick of time, the Zerg will be able to get a couple of his units out there, but that was actually solidly defended by the Protoss player. Something that could have gone absolutely terribly wrong was indeed finished up in his favor once again. Now, I wonder what this Spire is going to do. Because currently, when we look at the unit count here for the Protoss, there's 2 Immortals, 3 Zealots, and a single Adept, and I guess there's a Mothership out as well right now, the Mothership Core at the very least, but there's no units here available that can properly shoot up. Spire's finishing, 700 gas was already saved up. 7 mutas immediately in that production tab. I love this style. Look at that. Going for the hyper aggressive, you know, plays here. And this is definitely a strategy that Bly is very comfortable with. Great counter-attacking here as well, though, by the Protoss player. Sending the Immortals across. And Immortals, of course, they deal a lot of damage to buildings. Zealot's trying to do the exact same thing right now. We do see Contamination even going down there on one of the warp gates to allow these units here to get a little bit more value out. But now that the mutas are out here, they're going to be able to pick up at the very least some of these units, but they're also going to go after that Warp Prism. Warp Prism needs to try and keep that alive here for the longest time. The Roaches are going to try and push into the base here. Not sure if this is maybe a little bit of an overextension. Does get one of the sentries, but it gets forced to back on out of there once again. Muta's now going after that Warp Prism, however, and I think that Bly is catching his opponent off guard here after like 16 different tech switches. He eventually is going to find one that's going to make this very hard for the Protoss player to defend against. We do see 2 Stargates coming in right now for the Protoss player in blue. He's going to try and make that switch to watch the Phoenixes, which are of course going to be able to counter this eventually, but not without a lot of the units here already dying. And I wonder if there's not just simply a little bit too much Zerg here. Stalkers also being morphed in, solidly defended here so far by the Protoss player. One of these cannons will get picked off with relative ease right from the get-go. And now that the mutas are essentially free to do whatever they want, they're gonna go after all of these probes here in the main base location. Third base finally being rebuilt right here as well by the Zerg player. Mothership core does not have energy for a Photon Overcharge, so a lot of these units will indeed end up dying once again. But look at it, 37 probes here in favor of the Zerg player, because there are indeed 43 drones out in the meantime here on the other side of the map. Phoenixes are going to come out though in bigger numbers right now. Muta's apparently feeling confident enough that they can just simply take care of the majority of all of these Stalkers. So far it does look like that may very well be the case here as well. And while the Mutas, they generally speaking don't want to quite be fighting all of those units, they're gonna go off, they're gonna go against all of these Phoenixes right now as well. Reinforcing Mutas are gonna try and see if they can potentially deal some damage here at that main mineral line. Zerglings are gonna come in here for the reinforcement, and Bly, in a very Bly-esque way, obtains the victory here in game number 3. What a beautiful match. That was extremely cool. That previous match of Zerg vs Protoss may very well be one of the best that I've seen recently. That was really cool. I mean, smart thinking, smart moves by both players throughout the entirety of that match. I mean, it started up with the 12 pool, of course. Easy to forget about that, but it did start up with the very quick Zergling aggression there from the Zerg player. Then, of course, we did see the transition from those Zerglings into that aggression at the third base of the Zerg. So, of course, the Protoss bringing over those pylons as well, and then the Mothership core with the Photon Overcharges, eventually killing that base after switching to the Dark Templar. Zerg was forced to make a lot of queens to try and hold on to that third base, and instead of letting those go to waste, he went for the Nydus Worm inside of the main base of the Protoss instead, and followed it up with a ton of Roaches as well. And now we saw that transition from the Roaches towards the Mutas while it was all going on, and that was the one where Bly finally managed to catch a break. I mean, Harstem was predicting everything that was going to happen, but he got caught with his pants down against the Muta switch, and of course that big Roach push that went in front of that as well. Very nicely done right there by Bly, definitely showing what he's capable of. It's one of these, it almost feels like chess, you know? Like, there's a lot of, like, smart strategic moves where you have to make assumptions for what your opponent is going to be doing over the next couple of moves as well, and where your opponent is more than likely going to be transitioning. I mean, Harstem was showing that he was focusing on an army based around Immortals, Archons, and Zealots in this series so far. Mutas would be the perfect counter, and it's definitely going to be the default that he was aiming for once again. So that was really nicely done there by Bly. I really enjoyed watching that game right there. That was nice. That was solid. Anyway, once again, we got a potential match point right here for Harstem. Harstem is going to go for a very safe build so far. Wouldn't be surprised to see a quick Stargate coming in here very shortly. I mean, he's been going for that Stargate essentially every single match so far. He needs to get a pylon there. There we go. He's going to be able to get that pylon up rather early here as well. And I wonder if Bly is going to go for any kind of hyper-aggressive builds here once again. We'll have to keep an eye out right here on that Gas Geyser. Looks like the Extractor was taken rather late, so he will be able to get Zergling speed here eventually. Getting himself the link speed out is, of course, going to be very important. But is he going to leave the drones in gas? The answer is Yes, apparently he is going to leave the drones in gas. That's something to keep in mind. At the same time, though, we do see indeed the drone trying to chase down this probe right now as well. Sending the drone, however, early. You can see that Bly didn't even have the resources for this just yet. Once again, trying to be smart about this, right? Trying to calculate in the time that it would take to get rid of that probe here at the third base location. And eventually, the third hatchery here will go down as well. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we see the Stargate coming in for Harstem. He's going to try and do some damage once again with that. And once again, delaying that mothership core as well. Bly actually currently now also flying in an Overlord in the perfect position. Look at that. Knowing very well where Protosses have a tendency to put down their pylons and their tech structures, he should be able to see exactly what he is going up against here in just a little bit. But the drones were indeed left in a gas geyser, but not until the pneumatized carapace got started. Then they were all pulled off. Look at that. So I think that Bly may very well be looking once again to either go for a hyper-aggressive build or just try and play a standard, straightforward macro game. I mean, he could use this Overlord speed that he's finishing up in a sec to just do some scouting here and figure out exactly what it is he's going up against. Now, so far, he's already confirmed that there is going to be an Oracle flying across the map rather early on. 4 Overlords, however, being produced right now. And I think that, indeed, Bly must be going for some sort of aggression once more. I mean, why would he make this many Overlords otherwise? Is he really going to use them defensively? He may have just made a slight error right there. Maybe he is a little bit flustered after that previous match. No, he's actually not going to follow this up with Zerglings. I thought he was freeing up supply to maybe go for a big aggressive push, but it's not quite going to happen. He just simply hit a slight supply block there, and he is going to indeed be forced to deal with all of these units here as well. Oracle is going to come in, and I don't really see any defenses here in the natural whatsoever. Not a single queen available here. Not... Oh my god, that's going to cost him a lot of workers. Did Bly eventually crumble under the pressure here of the Protoss player? Not only getting supply block there, but showing that he's human by making an error there and not oh my god, yeah, no, I was gonna say that this base is also gonna be in a lot of trouble. Yeah, showing us that he's human. Even though he's a pro gamer and he plays this game on a daily basis and he plays at a very high level, he is still capable of making errors, at the very least every now and then. 14 drones end up going down there in just a matter of seconds. And while the Zergling now also confirmed that it is going to be a third base, and this Phoenix apparently is a merciful god, and, well, okay, I was gonna say he's gonna let that Overlord live, but this is starting to crumble very quickly here for Bly. He does still have a big amount of drones, just trying to power them out right now, knowing very well that he's behind, but there's no excuse for losing 14 workers to, like, a single Oracle. Was that just a single Oracle there? Yeah, it's got 14 kills. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And this is what happens, right? When you play a best of 5 series and your opponent is playing very well, you may accidentally end up making some slight errors. Even though he scouted perfectly what was going on, sending the Overlords in great corners, he's gonna be forced to play this match from behind, and the Oracle right there even lives to fight another day. Adepts now moving across the map. I like this move a lot from Harstem, knowing that he is indeed dealt a lot of damage to his opponent's economy already. He knows that he's delayed any kind of tech, and if the Zerg wants to come back into this, he's more than likely going to try and power out workers. That means that this is a great move to make with all of the Adepts right now. There's no Warp Prism available, but is he going to need it? There are no Zerglings here whatsoever. There's a bunch of Queens. Zerglings are finally morphing in right now, or, you know, swarming across the map here as well, but the Adepts are going to be able to make their way into the main base. A couple of them are also in that natural mineral line, and so many drones end up going down in just a matter of seconds. Zerg versus Protoss is a very slippery slope. Oracle moving into the third base location here from the Zerg as well, and so many drones end up dying here in just a matter of seconds. Ooh. 31 drones already dying, and 50 almost in total in just a handful of minutes in this match. Couple of the Adepts now also shading into the main base, and Harstem playing his opponent like a fiddle right now, knowing exactly what he's going up against, knowing that he's managed to break his opponent mentally. He's going to be able to easily clean up every single last of these units there. And while the drones are running and maybe these Adepts will end up dying, I can't help but wonder. And look at that, you know, drone income tap right there. It's 22 workers for the Zerg versus 62 for the Protoss. Harstem happily mining off of 3 bases, setting himself up with that transition right now as well, going for the triple Oracle play, and he's going to be able to follow us up with a Forge right now, as well as a whole lot of upgrades. There's not only going to be Photon Cannons, there's double Forges even going down right now. That may be a slight error right there from Harstem. I don't know if he plans on double upgrading, but regardless, 52 drones here in total. You can make 16 forges at this point if you are the Protoss and still be fine. Although I wouldn't recommend it. There's no particular reason for that. But, I mean... This is almost getting sad right now, right? Bly is not a player who GG's out early, but he's got to realize as well that this is essentially game over. He's going up against one of the hardest to play against builds right now. If you are a Zerg player, the triple Oracle harass is very annoying for a Zerg player to deal with. And we all know what happens once Protoss gets like 7 or so of these things out. They're going to be able to deal with Queens just fine as well. They're going to make their way into the main base. Queens were distracted at the 3rd base location. A lot of damage will indeed get dealt, and so many oh my god, so many drones end up dying. He's even gonna go after the Queens right now. 81 workers, no way. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's sacrificing the Oracles right now, but it really does not matter. 88 workers in 8 minutes. I mean, that's gotta be bad luck. That's gotta be bad luck right there. Now to follow up with the Phoenixes as well, really smart play here by Harstem. He's setting himself up for a potential transition towards carriers, but Bly indeed is forced to GG out. 14 workers versus nearly 70 is not a situation that you want to be in. Great series right here by Harstem, really well done. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.